Welcome back to Peterson Auto. I've been having some starting issues with the all 7.3 lately, and you know, I've ran into some people who have absolutely no idea how these things work. So I'm going to give you a basic rundown of how this thing works and what to look for. So you have a couple major components first of all, but we'll say it doesn't start, okay? You go out to your truck, go to fire it up, and it just cranks. Well, if it's cold out, check the glow plugs. This is an aftermarket relay here. It's the one the Super Duty guys run, actually. I don't even think I modified the bracket or anything for it. Pretty much bolted right in. So used all the factory wiring. But if it's cold out, always check the glow plugs first. I know the lighting is horrible, kind of in the shade here, but always check the glow plugs first. Your relay would sit right here. It looks more like the starter relay there, and sits with the terminals facing up in the factory position. There is an engine cover that goes over this. Mine is removed because I don't like it. So yeah, it's leaky, it's dirty, I know. But if it's cold out, first thing to always check is the glow plugs, especially if you're getting some kind of smoke out the tailpipe. Probably glow plugs. If it's warm out or the glow plugs are good when it's cold, you want to look into a few other things. These all leak, let's face it. They all leak. So first thing I do is come over here and check the engine oil, make sure the engine oil is good. That's always the first thing, no matter what. First thing to do, check the engine oil. What else do we have going on? Well, the engine oil's good. You want to go ahead and check your H-pop, which there's a little plug right here, you can see. It's your H-pop reservoir. The oil level should be maybe about 3/8, half an inch below there. If it's not, you might want to put some oil in there to get it started, but don't do that too many times because you overfill. Any oil you put in here goes in the crankcase. Also, if you've had that apart, you might want to pre-fill it. So if you look a little further down, I think it's right here. No, right here. Alright, if you can see it down in here on the right hand side, it's your injection control pressure sensor. Now if you have oil in the H-pop, you can unplug this sensor and it'll put that sensor in a default mode, which is basically maxing out the oil pressure. Now why do we max out the oil pressure? Max out the oil pressure because this uses high pressure oil to compress the fuel to inject the fuel. So if you're not running and you do have enough oil in it, you know you have fuel. You can also see right here is a yellow lever. If you flip that, you'll get a fuel leak. That's your drain. There is a hose that runs back around the back there, I think, in the factory position. Mine just dumps in the valley because I never use it. But, you know, you can go ahead and open this and make sure you have fuel in the filter or pop the filter housing off. By the way, this is a factory filter lid. It uses a factory filter. Matco and Snap-on both make an excellent tool. Usually around 30 bucks to get these off. They also work on the 6 liters and the 6.4 filters, I think, too. So, you know, don't go in here with a pair of pliers and snap these housings. You can make these housings last forever. If you have that tool, they work great. So yeah, that's about all you need to make these start in most cases. There's also a crank sensor, but and a cam sensor. You can't unplug those to see if that's it. But if you unplug this ICP sensor down here, and it does start, you can run it. It'll run a little rough. It'll work though, so you can run it like that if it does start. You know, and then just replace that sensor. It's pretty easy to get in and out on these. The 6 liters are way in the back and a little harder. And if it isn't that sensor, it would be the IPR, which if I recall is right down under here on the back of the H-pop. And those you can rebuild. You don't need to buy new. You can rebuild. So if you can rebuild it, go for it. If it's all busted up, buy a new one. You also have a cam and a crank sensor down in the front of the engine here. Again, those you unplug them, it will not start. So unfortunately, you can't use those as basic over, on the side of the road diagnostics. But if you have major fuel leaks, you have major oil leaks, or a lack of oil, these things will not start. So since I've been having problems, I thought I'd give you a quick rundown on it. Kind of cover what may or may not be your issue. The other thing is, if you're having rough running conditions or anything, these connectors here to go into the valve cover harness are quite fragile and quite a pain in the rear. They are known to go along with the valve cover harness side of things. This is new valve cover harnesses, but factory connectors still. They're not really any corroded or anything. So I just decided to let them go. However, my issue now I've been having is this H-pop. Every time I go ahead and let the truck sit for a week, or even like 3 days, even a weekend, it's hard to start. I've been noticing this H-pop reservoir is getting low. And I want to cover this because it's really taken me a lot of finding out, and there's not much information out there about them. So, there is a check valve. So when this reservoir builds some pressure in it before the pump, and it gets full, it bypasses and goes back down into the oil pan there. So because the low pressure pump flows more oil to it than the high pressure pump's going to use, if you're sitting there idling, you're going to be using less fuel, less oil than the high pressure pump, hence why that's needed. So my issue is it's draining down every time it sits, and I have to keep pulling this plug and filling with oil, which is bad because now we're overfilling the crankcase. Unless you happen to be running enough for it to leak out, which most of us aren't. So, well, now where are we at with that? What causes that? There's actually a check valve down in the timing cover behind the water pump there. You won't see the check valve at all, but you can kind of see where the new water pump is mounted on. That's your timing cover assembly, goes down below the crank and all. So there's a check valve in there that allows the oil to drain out. Unfortunately, mine's bad. 96, 97, they're built into the timing cover. In 94 and 95, they're actually up here in the H-pop reservoir, and they're much more readily serviceable. As far as I know, per Ford, the 96, 97s are only available with the whole timing cover, which is like $400, which I'm not really wanting to put that into it for such a simple little tiny part. So I'm looking at other options right now. I'm going to probably tear it down and see if there's something else that can be done. If there is, great. If there isn't, we're putting a whole timing cover on the thing. However, I thought I'd show you that one. That's a little tricky no start too. So, pretty much if you have a no start or a hard start, those are your first things to check on these. It can get much more in depth than that. You can have IDMs go out, PCMs go out. You can have all kinds of other weird things happen. Crank cam sensors. You can have injectors that are faulty. But, most of the time you're going to be somewhere within one of those things being an issue if you haven't had any other running issues with it. It's a healthy, strong engine. You're going to be one of those issues that I just covered there. You can quickly check and get her running again. So hopefully that helps someone out. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to Peterson Auto.